4 out of 5. And after selling these trucks for a living, here's why. From 1971 to 2009, the Suzuki Carry was Japan's best-selling truck of any size by nameplate, 39 years running. Then, starting in 2010, something took over the top spot. And it's still there today, 16 years later. That truck is the Hijet. This is the story of how a truck earns that and keeps it. Start with age. The Hijet launched in November 1960, a full year before the Carry, making it the longest-running nameplate in the entire K-vehicle industry. 65 years and counting. The name is a mashup, Hi, for high performance, and Jet, borrowed from midget, Daihatsu's earlier three-wheeled K-vehicle. That first Hijet was a bonnet-style truck, 356 cc, 17 horsepower, priced at 298,000 yen. 6 decades of production means something concrete for buyers today. Parts. Toyota sells this exact truck as the Pixis truck. Subaru has sold it as the Sambar since 2012. 2 other brands have sold versions of the same basic truck, expanding the platform's footprint beyond Daihatsu itself. Here's where the Hijet's K-truck dimensions actually matter in daily use. This truck has a turning radius of just 3.6 meters. On a narrow Japanese street backing into a tight farm gate, or squeezing into a crowded job site parking area. That's the difference between an easy maneuver and a 10-point turn. It's not a spec you'd notice on paper. You notice it the first time you need to turn around somewhere. A normal truck can't. A K-truck was never meant to impress anyone with horsepower. It's meant to make a day's work easier, and that starts with the bed. The bed is rated at 1,140 millimeters in length, but the actual floor length reaches 2,030 millimeters. Daihatsu's own spec sheet shows both figures side by side. That's the whole design philosophy in one detail, a tiny footprint on the outside, engineered to give up as little cargo space as possible on the inside. Here's something Hijet did first, before anyone copied it, the jumbo cab, extending the cabin into bed space for a genuine second row. Suzuki eventually copied the idea with the Super Carry. Daihatsu did it first, which brings the jumbo trade-off into focus. Choosing it means giving up some of that bed space for a real second row useful. If you're commuting a real distance, resting between jobs, or keeping tools dry and out of the weather. But if hauling capacity is genuinely your priority, the standard cab is the one that keeps the bed at its full, uncompromised length. It's not that one version is better. It's that they're built for 2 different jobs. The current generation's transmission is a bigger engineering story than it sounds. In December 2021, Daihatsu introduced a newly developed CVT, built specifically for front-engine, rear-wheel drive mini-commercial vehicles, a combination that was highly unusual in this class. And they did it without touching anything else. No new platform, no reshaped body. Their reasoning, straight from the engineers after decades of refinement, the chassis was already about as good as it needed to be. Just rebuild the transmission. That CVT also brought a genuine diff lock to automatic Hijets. For the first time, previously manual only. The demand backed that decision up. Starting price at launch was 902,000 yen, and by 1 month later, Daihatsu had roughly 21,000 pre-orders for the Hijet truck alone, 3.5 times their target. The clear favorite of the 3 vehicles they released that day. Like the Carry, the Hijet has its own dedicated farm duty. Grade Noyo Special, Agricultural Special, genuine diff lock, reinforced 4-leaf rear springs, an LED bedwork light, often a heavy-duty rust coating as a factory option, same idea. As the Carry's Nomen grade, different name. If you're importing for rough terrain or farm work, look for this grade specifically. For light loads on pavement, the standard grade is plenty. In 2022, the Hijet truck won the Grand Prix at Japan's Auto Color Award, a contest judging cars, motorcycles, and work vehicles alike, recognizing the truck's overall interior and exterior color and material design. Daihatsu's stated goal was making a genuinely comfortable interior for a vehicle, built to work hard every day. The judges agreed it delivered. The appeal travels too. In Malaysia, dealers specifically import and resell used Hijet pickups from Japan, complete with their own road shows and owner communities. Compact size, simple mechanicals, low running costs, useful well outside Japan's own key regulations. If you're watching this because you're actually considering importing one, this next part is the section to pay attention to. Now, reliability, and let's get specific by model code, since that matters if you're importing under the U.S. 25-year rule. None of what follows should scare you off. Every truck has its quirks. What matters is whether they're fatal or just routine maintenance. The S200P from 1999 is old enough to qualify for the 25-year rule right now. Its main reported weak point, the alternator. When it fails, the battery drains, and the truck can stall and refuse to restart, annoying. But a straightforward, well-understood repair, not an engine-ending problem. This generation also runs Daihatsu's older EF-type engine, which uses a timing belt, a scheduled maintenance item, not a defect. Budget for that replacement at the right interval, and it's a non-issue. The earlier S100P and S110P from 1996 qualify for the 25-year rule. But honestly, I couldn't find one clearly documented persistent issue, tied specifically to that generation. Mostly ordinary, age-related ignition wear. One generation later, the S201P and S211P switched to Daihatsu's KF-type engine, the same engine family used across the move, Tanto, and Mira from that era, not something unique to the Hijet. Worth correcting a common assumption here, the KF engine actually uses a timing chain, not a belt. Chains don't need scheduled replacement the way belts do, but they can stretch over time, and real repair records show that happening on this generation, often associated with neglected oil maintenance. This generation also inherited the KF engine's other well-known weak point, oil leaks, typically from the head cover gasket. Left unchecked, either issue can starve the engine and cause real damage. That generation isn't old enough to import yet, so treat it as something to watch for a few years down the road, not today. One more thing, if you're buying a recent Hijet, there's a recall you need to know about. In July 2026, Daihatsu recalled the current generation Hijet Truck, along with its Toyota Pixus truck and Subaru Sambar. Truck badge mates over a battery terminal. Bolt that can corrode from road water and eventually stop. The starter from engaging. If you're buying from that production window, ask directly whether the recall work has been completed. What ties all of this together Toyota trusts? This same platform enough to sell it under their own badge as the Pixus truck. That says something about the underlying design. Generation-specific quirks aside, real-world fuel economy pooled across the current generation from ENP manual versions. Average around 17.6 kilometers per liter, CVT around 15.5. The data also shows some clear differences by age and drivetrain. Older model years run noticeably lower. Some 1999-era trucks average closer to 8 to 10 kilometers per liter, roughly half the current generation's numbers. And 4WD automatics tend to sit toward the bottom of the range, typically 10 to 12, while 2WD manuals sit toward the top. If fuel economy matters to your decision, both the model year and the drivetrain configuration move. The number more than anything else. So, Carry or Hijet? Honestly, the truth is there isn't a huge difference. A few genuine specifics are worth knowing. On a March 2026 comparison of the current base grades, the manual Carry rated higher on catalog fuel economy, 18.7 versus the Hijet's 15.6, though automatics were nearly tied. Diff lock came on both Hijet transmissions, but only the manual Carry. One Carry owner, driving a 2024 Nomen-grade truck, wished Suzuki would copy the Hijet's electronic 4WD button instead of its manual lever, though I can't confirm every Carry grade works the same way. On price, the base Hijet undercut the base. Carry by about 78,000 yen in that same comparison, but the Carry included more equipment as standard. None of it adds up to a clear winner. Which brings me back to that 4 out of 5, not a 5. Because there's no single thing about this truck that's exceptional. The fuel economy is average, the ride is nothing special, and depending on who you ask, the Carry does a few things slightly better. But that's exactly why the 4 matters. The Hijet doesn't win because it's dramatically better than every other K-truck. It wins because it's consistently good at almost everything that matters. It's small enough for Japan's narrow roads. The bed is genuinely useful. The current CVT makes daily driving easier. The farm duty versions are properly equipped for work. Parts and service are supported across multiple brands. And after decades of evolution, Daihatsu has had a very long time to remove the things that don't work. That's not a spectacular advantage. It's something more important: consistency. And that's probably the real reason. The Hijet dethroned the Carry after 39 years and stayed there for 16 more. Buy one, change the oil on schedule, and it'll simply keep working. That's the whole review.